With Hashem's loving grace, we're tonight learning Rebbe Nachman's famous tale, The Rabbi and the Only Son. And Rebbe Nachman is showing us in this classic tale the importance of connecting to a righteous spiritual guide. And we also see that the road to accomplishing a true goal, it's strewn with obstacles. It's not easy. Okay, so there was once a rabbi who had no children. This is a theme of Rebbe Nachman and a few of his stories we saw in The Merchant and the Pauper, and we saw in the Princess. A few different stories where Rebbe Nachman talks about the king and the king and queen, that they had no children. We're talking about the king. Who's the king? The king is always Hashem, and the children, his children, are those that serve him. So a king turns around, no children. We learned last night that Hashem waited patiently from 10 generations between Adam and Noah, and another 10 generations from Noah to Abraham, until Abraham would come along and be the first monotheist. Okay, so this is really this is a metaphor for the only son is the one that is truly serving Hashem. So this rabbi had no children, but later, even though he's a rabbi, he's got no children. Okay, so it doesn't matter where Rabbi Nachman is taking tongue in cheek that a person could be a big Torah scholar and a person could be very ritualistic, observant, quote unquote. It could be what we call in Yiddish frum, is very stringent. But that has nothing to do with the Emunah. That has nothing to do with the heartfelt service of Hashem. Whenever Rabbi Nachman is talking about serving Hashem, he's talking about the heartfelt service of Hashem. So this particular rabbi, he didn't have any children, but later he's blessed with a son. And he raised his son, and he finally married him off, made a wedding for him. And in the matter that used to be, the Torah used to be belonged to the aristocracy before the time of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov made service of Hashem into a national endeavor. It used to be that the people were poor, 98% of the population were poor, and they were wood choppers and water schleppers. They carried water from the river to people's houses. They did menial labor, and just villagers milking cows. And the 2% were Torah scholars. And the 2% was the aristocrats. These were the highbrows of Judaism. They looked down on other people. You have to understand one thing. The moment anyone looks down at anyone else, the moment that anyone feels that he or she themselves are a reality, there's something of importance, that means that we have to look at ourselves, that our only significance in life is that we're here to serve Hashem. And everything is Hashem. Ein od milvado, there's nothing but Hashem. So anytime a person has the slightest ego orientation of self is an iron curtain between Hashem. Nothing blocks Emunah like self-orientation, like a person that is concerned with himself or herself. Okay, so this son, he would sit in an attic room, like the sons of rich men, but Rabbi was a scholar, and apparently a rich merchant gave the daughter to Rabbi Nachman and offered to keep the boy learning, the young man learning, let him just sit and learn, and the father-in-law pay for it. This was customary in the aristocracy. And once again, the 2%, 98% did backbreaking labor, and they were poor in poverty, both spiritual poverty and financial poverty. They could barely read, and maybe they knew how to say a verse of Psalms, and maybe they knew how to pray, but not much more. Okay, so the son, he sat in an attic room alone, and he would pray constantly, and he would learn constantly. In other words, he'd pray all the time and learn constantly, but he felt something was lacking in his divine service. This is really feeling. He was doing everything, going through all emotions, but he didn't feel the fervor. In Yiddish, they call it the geschmack, the odor, the flavor. It's the flavor of serving. When you serve Hashem with enthusiasm and with fervor, and look forward, a person runs to the synagogue, runs to prayer, and runs to learn Torah. Okay, but this son, the rabbi's only son, he had no enthusiasm, and everything he was doing was rote, and it was routine. So he discussed this with his peers. He had peers, young men that were the Torah scholars of their own age. They had similar problems also, and they advised him to travel to a certain tzaddik. Tzaddik, of course, a pious Jew. The tzaddik get advice, because with the whole job of the tzaddik is a spiritual guide. The tzaddik, his job, his entire purpose is to help people get closer to Hashem. He's not concerned with himself. He's not concerned with his self-aggrandizement. As soon as you have someone that people think is a tzaddik, but it's all about himself. The show is about him. No, the show is about Hashem. And it's bringing people close to Hashem. That is a sign of a true tzaddik. So his peers said, wait a second, you're lacking something. You don't have a spiritual guide. You don't have to say, you go to a tzaddik. Now, these peers, we have to understand, these other young men, they couldn't give him this advice if they hadn't done it themselves. Apparently, they were in the same situation. They had the same lack of kishmak, lack of good taste in their praying. So they went to the tzaddik, and the tzaddik opened up the whole new world. What's the whole new world that the tzaddik opens up for a person? Emunah. So we'll see that this whole story, without Rebbe Nachman mentioning the word emunah a single time, he doesn't mention the word emunah a single time, but the whole story is about emunah, the pursuit of emunah, and especially in the seemingly higher spiritual echelons, where one would think, oh, Torah scholars have emunah, or people that pray fervently, they have emunah. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. That's the difference between a tzaddik and a highbrow. Because a highbrow, what is a highbrow? Highbrow, why does he pray fervently? To show that he prays better than you do. And why does he learn fervently? To show that he knows more than you do, or learns more than you do. It's all, again, for the highbrow's self-aggrandizement. And this is what, to our dismay, before the Baal Shem Tov came along and said that everyone has a birthright in Hashem, everyone has a birthright in Emunah, everyone has an equal right to the Torah and an equal right to prayer. Well, this murdered the aristocratic monopoly on Judaism, but it brought back to life. And still, the Baal Shem Tov, he had so much. Baal Shem Tov was Rebbe Nachman's great-grandfather. The Baal Shem Tov, he had so much spiritual resistance, tremendous resistance, that the whole world was against him. The Lithuanian Orthodox world was against him, and even today, they're against Rebbe Nachman. Rebbe Nachman's great-grandson. Rebbe Nachman even made Torah more accessible than his great-grandfather did. He continued on with the work of his great-grandfather. This was all the great Rebbes did. But Rebbe Nachman even opened the Torah wide open. Not only that, but Rebbe Nachman, he opened it to the entire world. Rebbe Nachman brought the entire world, and even non-Jews. He brought non-Jews to serve Hashem, to believe in Hashem. Okay, so the young man, he feels a lack of enthusiasm. He speaks to his peers. Peers give him a good piece of advice: go visit this tzaddik. Well, previously, this young man, he did something very special. Rabbi Nachman doesn't say what the special mitzvah he did. He did something very special that elevated him way up into a high spiritual level, which is called in Kabbalah the Ma'or Katan. He was elevated to the level of the moon. What's the moon? Where the moon reflects the sun's light. The sun can't reflect light directly, but it goes by way of the moon. The moon does many good things with her light. There are certain crops that can't grow according to sunlight. They grow according to moonlight. In other words, there are crops like tomatoes and cucumbers that you can raise in northern Scotland in the winter, or northern Canada in the winter, if you have the proper heat and the proper greenhouse and the proper ventilation and the proper light. But you cannot raise watermelon and cantaloupes from the cucurbit family. You can't raise them in a greenhouse because they need to grow by the light of the moon. So we learned this, that the moon reflects the sun's light, and the moon does great things with the sunlight. If you read the Bond of Emunah, our book about marriage, it brings the Kabbalistic imagery that the man is the sun and the woman is the moon. She has no light of her own, but when she gets light from her husband, she gives back great things. But the husband says, well, my wife doesn't do for me. Well, you don't give her. First give her, and then she'll do great things for you. Okay, so this is the young man. He attained this level of Ma'or Katan, the smaller luminary. The sun is called the greater luminary, Ma'or Gadol. The moon is called the smaller luminary because the smaller luminary reflects the light of the greater luminary. Now, what does this mean as far as people go, as far as in the Hasidic world? That this is somebody like Rebbe Natan, who was the prime disciple of Rabbi Nachman, that Rabbi Natan almost attained this level of the lesser luminary. Now, we'll see at the end if someone attains it and the lower luminary and the upper luminary, they come together, that brings Mashiach. That brings Mashiach. But this is almost this close. Well, this young man had the potential of being this prime disciple of a great tzaddik for what he did. And again, Rebbe Nachman did tell us what we did. We don't know what he did, but he had this potential. He had the spiritual potential. And this from Hashem is giving him this nagging feeling that something is lacking. Hashem is telling him, you have to go to a tzaddik. You have to get a spiritual guide. So this only son, he went and he told his father that he feels no fervor, no taste. He's not awakened. He's not enlivened in the service of Hashem. And something is missing, but he doesn't know what's missing. And he therefore wants to go, according to his peers' advice, and travel to this particular tzaddik. And this was peers' advice. So what did the father say to him? Father says, well, why do you decide that it's worthwhile to go to this particular person? After all, we have a higher pedigree than his family does. He said, we're from a more blue-blooded family than his family is. And you, after all, you're my son. And we're certainly more Talmudically scholarly than this tzaddik is. So he's below you on two counts. He doesn't have your pedigree. He doesn't have your scholarship. Well, excuse me, Daddy, Rabbi, how do you know that the tzaddik does not have this level of scholarship? Have you tested him? No. Have you learned with him? No. It's all hearsay and reputation. It's all gossip, and gossip not necessarily from the face. If you've made this opinion, you've already transgressed Torah, transgressed rules that we read in the Chofetz Chaim about what's permitted and what's forbidden in speech. What's more, a pedigree. Since when? Where does it say in the Torah that we're on a higher or low level, we're judged by our pedigree? It doesn't say anything. In fact, the Torah gives us all types of examples of people that came from the lowest tribes, like Oholiav ben Achisamach from the tribe of Dan. The tribe of Dan was the least prestigious tribe, and he became the right-hand man in Bezalel, who created the vessels in the Holy Temple because of Oholiav's hard work. The Torah tells us exactly the opposite. That the benefits of a Baal Tshuva, the benefits of a person that makes his or her own spiritual gain. So another thorn. What's a blemish in what the rabbi says? We see the rabbi, as soon as the rabbi says us and we, and not talking about Hashem, the son is saying, Daddy, I need to get closer to Hashem. Daddy, something's wrong with my prayer. Something's wrong with my service to Hashem. Something wrong with my Torah learning. That's what the rabbi answer him. Oh, you're more prestigious than you want to go to see. Hey, Rabbi, you're bringing pride into there. You're bringing arrogance. As soon as you brought pride, as soon as you brought arrogance, there's no Hashem. Because Hashem says in the Gemara, in Tractate Dor, that me and the proud person cannot dwell in the same universe. So Hashem's not going anywhere. So bye-bye, pride person. Bye-bye, Mr. Highbrow. You're not going to stay here. Because Hashem, you can't dwell with Hashem. So this right away, but the father, probably used to bossing his son around, and he really overblew his son and completely made the son feel ridiculous, that this advice is terrible. And you have to understand that these peers, they're not just peers, the same age group, they're equals to the son. The peers, the friends, they're on his level of learning, they're on his level of searching Hashem, but the difference is they have already been to the tzaddik, so they can give him this advice. So the father tells him, don't do this, refrain from doing this. And the father succeeds in dissuading him from traveling to the tzaddik. This is the first time. Well, the son returned to his learning once again. And again, he goes back to the same humdrum learning and the same humdrum praying. And he feels deficiency just like before. So again, his friends see him. They say, why are you not happy? He tells him, I don't feel geschmack in what I'm doing. I don't feel any fervor when I'm doing. We said, we told you, go to the tzaddik. Go to the tzaddik. He'll give you advice. He'll tell you what to do. So again, he goes to his father and he said, Dad, I still feel the same way. And once again, the father dissuaded him and virtually prevented him from going. And this happened once and twice and even a third time. So this after 3 dissuasions, the son feels this lack and now this void It's a nagging, yearning void within him. He feels something nagging. It's almost a literal pain in his gut, but he has no idea what's missing. So once again, he gets advice from his peers. It's right again, like we say on Pesach, Chad Gadol. Once again, another cycle, and the peers tell him, "Well, what are you doing? What are you sitting here in the village for? Go to the tzaddik." So he goes to his father, and this time he begged his father direly. He says, "Father, you have to agree. Let me go." Well, the father saw that this is a third time around, fourth time around, and the father agreed to let the son go on one condition. He said, "I'm going to go with you." But then he made another condition. He made another condition. He says, "Well, we'll see. We'll make a test, and I'm going to show you that the tzaddik is nothing at all." Again, the father exhibits pride, and as soon as he gives a pride, you have to understand there is no void in spirituality. It's either dark side or light side. It's either evil inclination or good inclination. As soon as the rabbi becomes proud, arrogant in the slightest, okay, the rabbi just joined, he was just recruited by the evil inclination. From this moment on, the rabbi becomes a messenger, unwitting. The rabbi thinks, he thinks, nobody could tell him what to do. He's scholarly, he's learned, he's got this blue blood pedigree. And it goes all the way. We all have blue blood pedigree. We're all the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. We all have this blue blood. But so we don't get egotistic about it. I respect the other person because the other person has the same pedigree I do. But as soon as the rabbi thinks he's better than anyone else, your job, Rabbi, is to be a spiritual guy, but you're not doing your job. You are doing your job to make yourself feel better. You want to feel better than other people. So in order to make him feel better than other people, he has to denigrate other people, and especially at tzaddik. This is something very, very terrible. It's terrible to denigrate a regular person, a normal person, but a tzaddik. The tzaddik Hashem has a special love for his righteous servants. King David talks about this all through the book of Psalms. But now, that's it. Okay, so now the rabbi is an agent. We now look at the rabbi and see what he's doing. And slight nuances, we can see these nuances where he is acting on behalf of the evil inclination. So they harness the carriage and they set out on the journey. And now the father says another stipulation. First stipulation, they have to go with the son. And the second stipulation is that we're going to make a test. The rabbi said, we're going to make a test. If everything goes smoothly, that's a sign that it's from God, it's from heaven, and it's heavenly ordained. And if it's not, if things don't go smoothly, then we should come right back home. We should no longer travel, cancel trip. Well, this is the exact opposite. The exact opposite. And nothing in the service of Hashem comes easy. Because anytime when we learn this from Jacob's wrestling match at midnight with an angel that lasted all night long until daybreak, that any time a person wants to get close to Hashem, right away the evil inclination calls in the reserves. And in the case of Jacob, was the evil inclination himself. So here's the rabbi saying, okay, the test is everything smooth. Rabbi, where do you learn this? Show me, Rabbi scholar, where in the Torah does it say things are easy? Even Ringo Starr knows it don't come easy. You know it don't come easy. He even knew that. Ringo Starr and the Beatles know it doesn't come easy. You don't know that learning doesn't come easy? That's real learning. Egotistic learning. Oh, yeah, that nobody's going to bother you. Nobody's going to bother you, just like nobody's going to bother you from going to a discotheque and dancing in a discotheque and getting drunk on whiskey on Shabbat. Nobody's going to bother you for learning for your own ego. The evil inclination says, go ahead. And the evil inclination isn't going to bother you from looking down at other people. Oh, yeah, the evil inclination will fill you up. It even floats. It floats a person with guy. What's the evil inclination? The evil inclination is a leavening agent. Why on Pesach do we not eat leavened bread? Because leavened bread, what's the difference between leavened bread and matzah, unleavened bread? The leavened bread is bloated with the gases from the leavening agent. And matzah doesn't have leavening agent. It's matzah and water, very simple. Flour and water. So the evil inclination inflates the person with takes the small balloon of a person's ego and inflates it even more. And we see that the rabbi's ego has become even more and more inflated. So now he says, we're going to make this test. But he invented this. He invented this. There's no place in the Torah that says divine service comes easy. In fact, I see, Baruch Hashem, I have the privilege of being in contact with every single one of our group. Every single one of you. I know one by one, going one by one in our group, and the challenges that you have, the challenges that every one of you have, we've been together for 5.5 years already, and the spiritual growth that you've done, and the ups and the downs and the health challenges and the income challenges and all types of different challenges. I don't want to go into, don't expose anything, but you can see one now. If you just speak with each other and just scratch the surface and you see the challenges, you say, can't believe it. I thought my challenge was difficult. What about this one's challenges? This one's challenges. I don't embarrass anybody, but you're all heroes. And this is a sign that it's the real thing. Many of you have written me, Rabbi, why does Hashem make things so difficult for me? Because you're fighting, you're Daniel in the lion's den. You're in the throat of the evil inclination. You're a bone in the throat of the evil inclination. And with what you're doing, you're going to bring Mashiach. And the evil inclination, it's his job to obstruct that, to try to put obstacles in your way. But we'll see in the end, where the evil inclination is so nasty. Yes, he's an angel. Yes, he's an emissary of Hashem. But the evil inclination will trip up a person and then go and inform. He's the informant in the heavenly court. Oh, he did that. But you're the one that incited to do that. Yeah, but he didn't have to listen to me. He could have followed the Torah. So here again, the son doesn't have to listen to the father because the father's not going against the Torah. But the father made a new halacha. He made a new law that things have to go smooth. And if they don't go smoothly, they come home. All right. So here he's an agent now for the evil inclination. The evil inclination, remember, doesn't want this young man to reach the tzaddik. Because if that young man reaches the tzaddik, Rebbe Nachman is already indicating us that it's going to be nitric acid and glycerin. It's going to blow up the Yetzer Hara. It's going to bring Mashiach. So the guy is going to do everything. The Yetzer Hara is now calling up the reserves. In Israel, we call it a Tzav Shmona. We call it Ordinance Number 8. Ordinance Number 8 is when no matter what you're doing, it's an emergency call up. You drop what you're doing, and you got to report to base. So now they set up on the way. This is the first trip to the Rabbi. The first trip they set out. They reach a small bridge, and as they reach a small bridge, the horse trips. The horse falls, and the carriage turns over, and they fall into the river, and they nearly drown. So the father says to the son, they come out unscathed. Hey, I get that the horse falls. They fall off a bridge into the river, but they come out unscratched. The wagon is gone. The horse they fall off the bridge, and you see, the father says, you see, things are not going smoothly. This journey is not from heaven. And the father is implementing the own law that he created himself. And they turn around and they go back home. Okay, that's it. That's it. According to the father's law that he stipulated, it didn't go smoothly. The journey didn't go smoothly. So they had this opposition, this obstacle. You can see, I know they're Breslover Hasidim on the way to Rebbe Nachman and Uman now. What they have such a difficult, because in the war in Ukraine, they have to go by way of Romania and go by Poland and 35-hour journey. That doesn't, they know they want to get there. They want to be with their Rebbe. They want to be with their Rebbe on Rosh Hashanah. Rebbe Nachman said they don't take a no for an answer at the first difficulty. And you can see the things that are happening, it's crazy. So the son now returns to his attic and he returns to his studies. And again, he feels even a bigger nagging deficiency in divine service because that void hasn't filled. And this is what King Solomon says, a nefesh lo tumaleh. There's nothing, if a person has a spiritual void, and if a person feels dissatisfied because of a spiritual void, nothing else, buy the person a new Maserati, take him on a Bermuda cruise, go to a Vail or a skiing trip, go do whatever you want. It's not going to fulfill anything. Maybe a bit of short shul, but then it go right back and have the same nagging. So again, once again, he goes back to his father. the only son, and he implores him like before. And the father, he couldn't say there was a good, he hounded him. The son hounded the father, and the father said, once again, same condition, that he go with him. And as they were traveling, the father said, same test, same test. If there is everything, if things don't go smoothly, then we're going to turn right back around. So this time they're traveling on the road, and boom, boom, both axles of the wagon, they break. So the father said to him, you see, events are indicating that we should not travel. But it's not a natural occurrence that both axles should break. How many times have we ever traveled with this carriage, the same carriage, and things didn't happen? Okay, Rabbi, but today they did happen. And it wasn't lightning from the sky. This was a natural occurrence. You said it's not a natural occurrence, but it was a natural. It could happen. It could happen. This is a test. Natural occurrence. What is this? This is Hashem testing their faith. The axles are broken. Not only, you can see, we said the evil inclination is a messenger of Hashem. Hashem is giving the evil inclination the license to test Hashem. The evil inclination couldn't go to Abraham and say, Abraham, go slaughter your son Isaac on the Akedah. Go bind him to the altar and slaughter him and burn him at the stake by ritual sacrifice. If Hashem didn't agree. Hashem agreed that the evil inclination make this tremendous, arduous test of faith to Abraham. This was the test, the most difficult test of faith. Okay. So what does the angel of Hashem say? The good side angel, the Yud Kei Vav Kei angel, the angel of Hashem say, now I know that you fear Hashem. Now I know that you fear Hashem. Now that I know, but now it's made known. Of course Hashem knows what Abraham's going to pass the test. Hashem knows everything. The angel says, but now it's apparent to the whole world that you can overcome the obstacle. We saw Abraham overcome 10 tremendous obstacles. Okay, so the axle breaks, and once again, they return home according to the father's law. Back, same cycle. The son returns to his learning as before, and the same deficiency only gets worse. And once again, speaks to his youthful peers, and they advise him like before. And they tell him, what are you doing? Go to the tzaddik. Don't listen to anybody. Go to the tzaddik. They have to go on foot. Go. So once more, the son went to his father, and he pressured him, and he insisted on traveling with him. But this time, the son told the father, Father, don't make any tests like that. Don't invent your test, because this is something natural. Sometimes an accident can happen on a bridge, and of course, a horse can fall into the water. The horse didn't fly, fell into the water. And sometimes an axle of a wagon could break. And it's happened that a person has had 2 flat tires at once and doesn't have a spare. This is something that can happen naturally. So even though it seemed shocking, so they traveled and they went on the way. And this way they went a little bit further. But now they have to spend the night at an inn. And in the inn was a group of merchants. They have a group of merchants where they're staying together and they're going from place to place, selling their wares and buying and selling. And while they're in the inn, the way of the merchants, it used to have a good time, and they eat and drink and converse. And so they were all together, and they were eating and drinking, and they see the rabbi and his only son come in, and they open up a conversation. Rabbi, what are you doing on the way? The rabbi was kind of embarrassed to say they're on the way to the tzaddik, because the rabbi was, I'm on the way to visit somebody lower than me. Embarrassed? He should be proud. No, but the rabbi was embarrassed. So he says, oh, we're on the way to visit this holy person. And the rabbi was afraid to say, was embarrassed to say that it was tzaddik. Well, the other merchants were speaking about worldly things. And the final thing came to tzaddikim. And they were saying, oh, have you been to Zlotchov? Have you been to Mezibos? Have you been to Ruzhin? He talked about these different towns in Ukraine and where this tzaddik is and this tzaddik is and this tzaddik is. And one of the merchants began speaking about a certain tzaddik. And it's happened to be the same tzaddik that the rabbi and the only son, they were traveling to tzaddik. So another merchant comes up and answers it. He says, well, looks like it innocently. They don't know that the rabbi's going there. They don't know that the only son is going there. And they say, what, you going to him? Ah, the guy's a simpleton. The guy's a simpleton. What they say, there's a word for Yiddish, a lichter. It's like a lightweight. Say somebody says, it's a lightweight. It's nothing. What are you going to that for? So, person says, how do you know? So the merchant said that was saying slander about the tzaddik. He says, I just came from him. I saw with my own eyes how he transgressed Torah. Wow. So the rabbi sitting at the table with the son looks at the son. He says, you see, my son? You see what the merchant is telling us innocently? We didn't ask about this particular tzaddik. In other words, he's not intending to talk trash about this tzaddik. He's not intending to speak Lashon Hara. But this is from heaven that we should hear this. And he came right from there, so he knows what he's talking about. Rabbi, how do you know that he knows what he's talking about? Do you know that the amount of opposition to the tzaddik is 5 times than the amount of support for the tzaddik? It's 5-1. 5-1. So maybe this particular person is one of the opponents, one of the fierce opponents at tzaddik, or maybe his rabbi and spiritual guide is in some type of competition with the tzaddik, or feels that he's in competition with the tzaddik. So he's saying bad things about them. So this time, Father said, that's it. You heard it. We didn't ask for it. And this was testimony from heaven that it came to our ears, that we should bring us to this inn and listen to this. We're going back. We're not going to go to a transgressor. You think it's a tzad transgressor. So they went back home. They went back home for the 3rd time. Time after the accident in the river, and the time after the accident broke, and now when they heard the slander about the tzaddik. Son couldn't handle the nagging anymore. After the 3rd trip, the son died. That's it. Rabbi lost his only son. Son had such nagging and such yearning in his soul couldn't take it, and he died. Shortly after the death, the son comes to a father in a dream, and the son was a gentle boy, but he comes to the father in a dream, and he's really angry. And his father said to him in a dream, there's speaking in his dream, why are you so angry? And the son said, you want to find out, Father, you go to the tzaddik right now. And his father said, and then you'll find out while I'm angry. So the rabbi awoke and he thought to himself, that the Gemara's Chalamot Shav, the dreams are for naught. This is just a coincidence. In other words, it's a dream and it's not true, not a true dream. We had this dream for a 2nd time, and it upset him a little bit. Then he had it for a 3rd time, and he couldn't say meaningless dream anymore because the son came to him 3 times in a dream, 3 times an established pattern, and 3 times according to Allah, it's an established pattern, and he couldn't ignore it. So the father went right away the next morning, and he went on the way to the tzaddik, began the journey to the tzaddik. So on the way, he recognized the merchant that he had met on the 3rd trip, and the merchant that spoke negatively about the tzaddik. And he said to the merchant, aren't you the merchant that we met at the inn? And the merchant says, now he turns this evil face, and his face, it seemed like it transformed into evil. And he says, yeah, I'm the one. And he spoke to him. The merchant opened up his mouth, and the mouth opens up supernaturally wide. It's like if an entrance to a cave. And the merchant says, if I want to, no, he didn't say if I want to. He says, if you want, I'll swallow you alive. What do you mean, if you want, I'll swallow you alive? What's Rebbe Nachman telling us? Rebbe Nachman tells us that if you want, what do you want? You're the one that wanted, Rabbi. You're the one that wanted. You're the one that opened up the door for me. So if you want to continue opening up the door for me, and I come more into your life, I'll swallow you alive, and your life will be finished. So Rabbi said, well, what are you talking about? He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand what the merchant now, this merchant, this is Esau's angel. This is the evil inclination incarnate. This is him right now dressed up as a merchant. So the merchant says, do you remember when you journeyed with your son the 1st time and the horse fell off the bridge and you returned? And you remember the 2nd time when the axles broke, and then you met me in the inn and I told you that the tzaddik is a lightweight? Now that I have exterminated your son, you can travel. The evil inclination is also the angel of death. Esau's angel is also evil inclination and the angel of death. So what this is, he's a kangaroo court. He tempts a person to do evil, tempts a person to go into Torah, to go against Torah, and then on the day of judgment, he stands and complains about all the Jews. It's very significant that we learn this lesson right before Rosh Hashanah, because that's what we blow the shofar for on Rosh Hashanah, that the sound of the shofar drowns out the voice. This one power to drown out the voice of the accusing angel, which is the angel of death, which comes in tattletales about each one of us what we did wrong. So he says, now that I've exterminated your son, what nasty language. Nasty language, the evil inclination. Your son is out of the way. I could say, I've eliminated your son. It's like exterminate. That's like language of a, heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. They talk about an exterminator. An eliminator is a hitman, but an exterminator is someone that sprays pests. This is nasty language. It can translate it either way. But assuming, just like the evil inclination is speaking very nasty, evil manner to the rabbi, because what's the evil inclination do? The evil inclination is tearing the rabbi down. What's he tearing the rabbi down? He's using the rabbi's sin of ego. The rabbi's sin of ego, and the rabbi's sin of pride, and the rabbi's sin of arrogance, which is one of the worst sins in Torah, because it brings a person to every other sin in Torah. And this is where these very, very, very difficult. This is already the rabbi suffering as punishment. The rabbi sees. He brought the punishment on himself. He brought the punishment on himself. There's all ego. And then the evil inclination tells him, Rabbi doesn't understand what he's talking about. He says, your son had a spark of the minor luminary. He said, that tzaddik is the major luminary. The tzaddik was waiting for your son to come to him. They would have brought Mashiach. But now that your son's out of the way, now you can go. So as the merchant was speaking, he suddenly vanished in this thin air angel. And the rabbi didn't have anyone to talk to. And he traveled to the tzaddik, and he cried his heart out, vey, woe, woe, such a pity for what's lost and unfindable. And Hebrew, the original Hebrew says, May Hashem Yitbarach return our exiles soon. So they say, return as exiles soon. We think that this is very timely again. Our exiles, our captives, the one in Gaza, may Hashem return them soon. That's the story. It does not have a happy ending. It shows that the thought that people have, oh, now I've become a Noahide. I do not know a single Noahide that had an easy life on the way to becoming a Noahide. I do not know a single newly observant Jew that has an easy life. Not only that, they've often been disparaged by the highbrows. People look at them, and people that were born into the program. You're born into the program? What's this? So you're in the synagogue because your parents were observant? What did you do? What did you do? We were born at a certain level. What have you done to improve your own spiritual level? So this Rebbe Nachman is really banging the highbrows. He's knocking them down. And when a person would come to Rebbe Nachman and tell Rebbe Nachman about their pedigree, I'm the great-grandson of this, Rebbe Nachman didn't. He said, what did you do about yourself? What did you do yourself? He didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it about yourself. So we see in the story that the merchant was what we call the Samach Mem. That's the Samach Mem. It's the angel of evil, the angel of death, Esau's angel. And he disguised himself as a merchant to deceive them. So when he met the rabbi a second time, he taunted the rabbi for having followed his advice. But then when it did say, he said, Rabbi, you're the one that followed my advice the whole time. And he's the one, where did the rabbi get this detail about if things aren't easy, we go back? That is from the dark side. That is from the dark side. Rebbe Nachman said every time that a person looks for something that comes without resistance, it's from the dark side. Why is things so easy? I'll never forget. I understood this when I first started working in outreach. And we don't use, in our world, the Hasidic world, where I only learn books. We don't use social media, and we don't use computers, and we don't use smartphones. But in order to reach the people I needed to reach, I had to have a website, had to do this. So I had to go to great rabbis of our generation. That one was Rabbi Moshe Halberstam. He's not with us anymore. The other was the Rebbe of Belz. The third was the Rabbi Beniyahu Shmueli. He's one of the greatest Sephardic Kabbalists alive since Rabbi Kaduri died. And the fourth, my own Rebbe, Rebbe Nachman. Rebbe Nachman. Okay, we have a Rebbe in this world. Rebbe Nachman's a Rebbe in the next world. But Rebbe in this world is the Melitzer Rebbe. And I said to Melitzer Rebbe that I need to, it's okay, need dispensations that they can have a computer and work on a website and do this thing. And the Rebbe said on one condition. He said, the moment things become easy for you, and the moment that you don't have all types of difficulties, you're off. The computer goes, that's it. Because it's no such thing that someone lays out the red carpet that you do things. And it's been a different, but very rewarding journey, but a very difficult journey. As you can see, but that's it. It's not easy. It's not easy. We can't have things easy. This is something that the Melitzer Rebbe told me. And if I tell you about the Melitzer Rebbe's life, tremendously difficult life. And this was, if we're looking, Western society wants us to look path for least resistance, leisure time. These are all concepts that in the service of Hashem are just not there. Just not there. You see great people in athletics, great people in the military. There's no such thing as leisure time, no such thing as path of least resistance. There's a rest time where you regroup your forces, where you rebuild your strength. But leisure time, doing nothing, pastime. We don't have this word in Hebrew, pastime. Pastime. It's the word serving Hashem. This is the lesson of the Rabbi and the only Son. And this is a special lesson that the evil inclination is not our friend. The evil inclination, any advice that we get that goes against Torah, it's not our friend. The evil inclination puts his arm around your shoulder. Yeah, I'm your buddy on this. I'm looking for bested. Don't listen to these people. Don't listen. Whatever you do, do not have a spiritual guide. No, don't. This you don't need. And plenty of times I've had people that come by and maybe they stay for a couple months, a year or two, but he doesn't know anything. You're down the road, down the road. But very few. It's like kind of a way station. But we see this all the time. We see this all the time. And this is part of this. We learn the real essence of serving Hashem. It's not easy, but it's the most gratifying thing in the world. And it's our mission on earth. So thinking of our mission on earth, we think about one of the most important days on earth, which is this coming Monday night and Tuesday and Wednesday. It's 2 days. Rosh Hashanah. This is the day of judgment. The day of judgment where the evil inclination, he tries to complain about all of us, but we go, we're not going to let him. We're not going to let him, especially our group won't let him. And we're not scared about a little bit of difficulty, and we're not scared about the little bit of negativity. We know that Hashem is true, and his name is true, and his Torah is true, and that's we're searching for truth. And that's the biggest, the most valuable commodity, and the rarest commodity on earth today is truth. So let's hope the truth is revealed, and Hashem's majesty in the world should be revealed until Hashem sends us Mashiach and a rebuilt holy temple in gathering out his exiles, and the revelation of the divine regime on earth, speeding our days. Amen.